Hi, can everyone hear me all right? Okay. First of all, welcome. I'm so happy that you're all here. Like the video said, my name is Leah Jacobson. That was me, if you don't see the resemblance. I'm the founder of the Guiding Star Project. And so I want to thank, just for this video, we had our college intern, Bridget Scott, was working on that for us. And then Austin Reardon, videography. And they went over to the U of M earlier this summer, and they conducted a lot of interviews on the campus with college students, just asking them questions about women's fertility and how our bodies would naturally work, and birth control and sexuality and just, just questions that are kind of basic biology questions, and they got some really fascinating answers. And so this is actually just a short little trailer to a video that we'll be releasing later this fall, which is a longer video and includes a lot more of the responses. And we really encourage you to kind of keep your eyes open for that, because I think it'll help you all to understand really the cultural messages that our young people not only are hearing, but that they're absorbing and that they're believing about themselves. So we'll talk more about that tonight, but thank you, Austin and Bridget, for the video working on that. And then before I get, oh yeah, there we go. Thank you. They're right here. And then before I start with my presentation, I really want to thank Dr. Collette and the UST Pro-Life Center for partnering with us on this event. This is such a beautiful space, and we feel so blessed to be here tonight with Abby Johnson here. So please give a round of applause to the UST Pro-Life Center for co-sponsoring and providing the space. So keep eating, your desserts are going to come out, just keep doing your thing. I'm going to take a little bit of time here just to kind of explain a little more in depth about what the Guiding Star Project is and what it is that we do. It's going to be about 20 minutes or so, and then Abby will be up. Don't worry, I'll let her talk. So I'll go through this quickly. All right, so kind of just some background. If you don't know anything about Guiding Star, the vision for it came a long time ago, way back in 2006, actually. I worked for the Diocese of Duluth in campus ministry. I lived on the UMD campus and ran the Newman Center there. And it was during my time as a campus minister that I began to kind of recognize the challenges that young pregnant women, specifically college-age women, face. That community is a great community, but I just saw that the services that were there were a little bit disconnected, and it made it very difficult for me to help students to access the different services that they needed when they were facing a crisis situation, when they were trying to decide what to do about their unplanned pregnancy. And so the vision kind of came from this. That community is like so many communities around us today. We have great organizations, and this is something Guiding Star wants to do, is that we want to highlight always that there are amazing organizations in every community. And so that's why we always try to bring in other pro-life organizations. We want to honor what they do, but we have kind of seen over time that we think that we can streamline this a little bit better, make this work a little bit better together. A lot of these organizations on their own, they struggle financially. It's difficult to raise money to keep your office hours open. Many are limited in their scope. They don't provide all the services maybe that somebody needs. And then in certain areas, certain groups don't collaborate very well together that maybe should. Maybe they should work together in a little bit better way. So kind of from this realization and working with college-age students and trying to shuttle them around a city, trying to access all the different services, this idea just kind of came like, what happens if we could get all these groups together in one place? What happens if we could get kind of a pro-life super center to kind of just meet the needs all in one convenient location for these girls? And so from that, Guiding Star formed. And so tonight, I just want to tell you more about it and just say that we would be so honored if you could help us make this a reality. So our mission, long story short, is to implement the Guiding Star model of cooperation in cities with abortion clinics. We specifically look towards cities that have a very imminent threat in them. I think the culture of death, kind of the language and the ideology is all around us, but we specifically want to start focusing in cities where there is a strong abortion presence, because we see that as the ultimate violation of women's rights and dignities, and so we want to just embrace that head on. So that's kind of the first part of our mission. Our centers, we want them to be comprehensive, women and family centers all over the country that bring together both the pro-women and the pro-life movement. And when I say pro-women and pro-life movement, they shouldn't be separate, but they kind of tend to be. So I was really actually excited tonight that we had some of our vendors here are doulas, and they provide birth services. And I'm a lactation consultant, so I provide breastfeeding services in my private practice. And these are kind of typically termed like pro-women services. You know, they're not necessarily considered a pro-life service. We always think of pro-life services as, crisis pregnancy centers or adoption or something. But we're trying to kind of blur that line in a way that comprehensive services for women are pro-life services. Like anything that's going to serve a woman is a pro-life service. And so we want to see the pro-life movement embrace anything that can really serve women's needs. And then part 3 of our mission is that we want to activate a culture of life through our centers. And so the language of our centers, everything about our centers, we want to speak to a culture of life. You might have seen this. This is just a really basic conceptual rendering of what a Guiding Star Center could look like. Now, it's totally not to scale. It's not an actual building, so don't pull me aside and tell me that you're concerned the bathrooms are too far from the family lounge, because it doesn't actually exist. So don't worry about that. This is to just give you an idea of the types of services that we'd like to pull together. And it might be a little bit hard to read, but this is not just a glorified pregnancy resource center. Sometimes people think that what we're trying to do is just create a big pregnancy resource center, and it's not. If you see, Pregnancy Resource Center is actually just up in the corner, up there in that corner, and that's one small part of the building. We also want to have medical practice, have pharmaceutical services there, pro-life pharmacy, natural family planning services, drop-off childcare, ideally a medical practice that's committed to natural law and pro-life principles. And just really, the possibilities are endless. You know, if you look in a community, the possibilities for who could all be in this center together are really endless. So this is conceptual. Now, I talked a little bit about how we choose the cities that this model will flourish in. So a city that we would look to start this model is going to have a lot of pro-life groups that are interested in working together. That's a huge, huge prerequisite. A strong sense of cooperation, good networking skills, current pro-abortion or a strong anti-life threat present, and a location that we find easily accessible for our clients. And so this is what our board of directors has kind of outlined as our key points in how to choose a city to work in. So to date, we've done a lot. On your table, there's actually a couple sheets on your table, just a little timeline of accomplishments if you want to know more about some of those very specific things that we've been doing. It'll kind of tell you, but among them, we've been working all across the country, attending the March for Life a couple times, doing speaking events, recording radio ads, getting them out. Our radio ads just were going out on EWTN right about now, just talking about new feminism and this idea of embracing femininity. So we're really trying hard to kind of start a grassroots movement of natural, holistic women's health being seen as a pro-life initiative. So that's been what we've been working on a lot. Kind of a little background story here is that, just to understand how this formed if you haven't seen the timeline, we formed the nonprofit officially in Duluth in 2009. And so we started working on the concept locally in Duluth for a couple years. The National Guiding Star Project, which is now looking at cities all across the country and trying to start affiliates all across the country, is actually only about 2 years old, a little over 2 years old. So we kind of formed loosely in 2011, but incorporated in 2012. And since we've done that, we've affiliated with 2 cities. And so we are affiliated officially with our organization in Duluth. So we have Guiding Star Duluth in Minnesota. And what that means is that we have a separate board of directors that's in Duluth, Minnesota, working on this concept, helping to spread unity, cooperation. They host some amazing events each month. They do monthly collaborative meetings. They pull together all the pro-life groups. They do great networking. And once a year, they do an amazing banquet called Together for Life. It's the same name we used for this banquet, but it actually started in Duluth, and they do it in January. And over the last 4 years, that event has given out more than $100,000 to the pro-life groups in that city. So the whole purpose of that event is to pull in all these amazing resources to try to get them to work together, to see each other as partners, to see each other as, we're in this together, we're stronger together, let's work together. And then all the money that comes in, they give out to them. So they're really trying to support the pro-life movement in Duluth. So we're really proud of the work that they're doing up there. I think we had a couple of their board members here tonight. They're around here. But we're just so appreciative of what they're doing up there. And then this last spring, we officially incorporated the brand new organization down in Texas, Guiding Star Brazos Valley. And we're blessed to have the board chair with us tonight. Abby is actually the board chair of that organization in Texas. And so we're working down there on the same concept, unity, we're stronger together, working together. Brazos Valley is College Station, Texas, and Bryan College Station, Texas. And they have an amazing history already in place because that's where 40 Days for Life was born. It's where the Coalition for Life came from. And so they have a strong understanding of what it means to work together with one another. And because of that, we're able to do some pretty amazing things pretty quickly. They're already opening a maternity home this fall. So, they just incorporated this spring. And they're already moving ahead because they understand how to work together. And so we're really, really excited to be down there. But of note, we have to note that we have had so many inquiries from people, from cities, communities all across the country asking, I'm kind of interested in what you're saying, like, how can we do this? And so we have a waiting list that's very long of cities. And so we're kind of just sifting through them. So the response has been overwhelming. Several requests per week for information about what this model is, what it is we're doing. We're starting to get some requests to speak at events and conferences. Specifically, we've been asked to talk a lot about this concept of new feminism. It's something that a lot of people are kind of curious about, like, how can feminism help women? Like, how could you be promoting feminism and be pro-life? And we just very clearly say, a new feminism is all about embracing everything feminine and supporting femininity and seeing it as a strength and not a weakness to women. And so the concept of new feminism is something we're getting to talk about quite a bit, and it's great because it's catching fire. So besides speaking, things like that, we've had a lot of just individuals too saying, how can I bring this to my community? But it's been a huge challenge for us because there's a board of directors that I work with. There's 5 of us. And we currently don't have an employee, so it's 5 volunteer board members working their tail off to meet all these inquiries every week. And so we definitely have some challenges for this. So kind of the main challenge right now is mobilizing our supporters. We literally have thousands of people across the United States right now that have communicated their support through social media or email or personal meetings. And it really, truly is becoming a grassroots movement. But we're having difficulty getting them mobilized. We've started an online forum, and we're starting to get people communicating there. But it takes a lot of time and energy and communication and coordination, which we're currently short on as a volunteer board of directors. We're also challenged with developing outreach options for non-affiliated communities, meaning cities that we probably won't start a center in. Not every city is an ideal city to start a center. Like where I'm from, I'm up in the Brainerd areas where I live, and the support and the people are amazing. It's tremendous in that area. But looking at the community logistically, it's not a good place to try to start a Guiding Star Center. And so, but we still want to be present there, and we want to help support them in ways, it might mean that we help them use our implement our college outreach toolkit. But that requires time, again, and energy. So that's been a challenge. Probably the most time-consuming challenge that we have is that when we have a good candidate, a good city that we actually want to start in, we need to focus, be able to have that focus to move in on them. And so that's something we're continually challenged with. And then our print materials. We have done significant work with social media and online marketing, but really it's time for us to get all this on paper. We need to get some things published. We need to get some startup guides, some actual like paper products in people's hands to be able to say, no, this is real, this is legit, this is our model, this is what we want to do. We've done a lot of work doing this, but it costs, precious financial resources to do that. So that's been a challenge for us. So we've been doing a lot of work in the background, like I said, preparing the materials to meet the needs of this. And like I mentioned, we do have the online forum. We've started to establish community leaders in several different cities around the country. We're trying to train them and help them, to learn the language that we're speaking in. We're working really hard to streamline our affiliation process, to get the guides all printed, to get the materials out to them. And we have 4 specific programs that we are ready to roll out. It's just we're kind of held up right now with the final editing, the final publishing, the printing costs for a college toolkit. We have a great toolkit that was developed about a year ago, and it's ready to go for college campuses, but it's just the printing of the banners and of the posters and of the materials and getting it out that's holding us up there. We have the media kit, radio ads. They're professionally done, really great radio ads that we recorded when we were down in College Station, Texas. Just getting them out, though, you have to duplicate CDs. It's a lot of networking to get them out. The Culture of Life series guide, and then our info packets. Everything is a little bit expensive. So we're a very frugal organization, and we don't spend a lot of money because we don't make a lot of money. We don't often do these things. We don't often do events where we ask for support. So we generally only spend money on getting out the word about our approach and our mission, and then supporting our affiliates. So we have 2 affiliates that we're trying to support right now, and we're trying to stay really focused on that mission of just spreading the vision and supporting affiliates and trying not to get lost aside from those objectives. So here are some of the ways, though, that we do that. We spread our vision and support our affiliates, and just an idea of how much some of these things cost us and why we're kind of held up by that. So toolkits for colleges, it's about $250 to print up. They include banners, they include posters, brochures, media kits. They're not too expensive, but you do have to, duplicate the CDs, get them sent out. It just takes a little bit of time. Info packets. These are a hard one because it's not terribly expensive. $10 doesn't seem terribly expensive, but when you're getting like 8 requests a week for info packet, it starts adding up pretty quickly. So that's been the challenge there, is kind of trying to pick and choose who gets the info packet, which is not an ideal situation. We don't like doing that. To go travel to these different events, oftentimes, we're asked to come to an event. Sometimes we're lucky enough to get paid, but most of the time we're lucky if we break even, or we're lucky if we don't go in debt more than $1,000, because that's typically actually what it costs for one of us to go to an event, and the amount of time it takes to travel there, and lost wages and childcare, babies, so we all have babysitters, so it actually costs us money most of the time to go to events. We love to go to conferences and get the word out by vendor tables, typically about $500, and then each new affiliate, when we start up with them, it's roughly $5,000 just to get started in terms of after we filed all the fees, the IRS, all those different things. So we try to help with finding and supporting opportunities for great speakers to come to our affiliates. So in Duluth, for instance, over the past few years, we brought Dr. Angela Franks, the author. We brought her there to speak at one of their events. We brought the pro-life musician Danielle Rose. We supported her in her album. We brought the producer Jason Jones this last year. We brought him down here actually, and then up to Duluth as well. And so those things cost us a lot of money when we try to help our affiliates in that way. We try to provide brochures, business cards, promotional materials that help explain our vision and our mission to their local communities so that they have some tools. If there's questions about how to navigate the legal scenarios, we try our hardest to bring in really good lawyers and consultants and people that can advise. And so all those things, sometimes we get lucky, but a lot of times we end up having to pay for a lot of those services. And it might include accountants, like I said, lawyers, real estate consultants, specialty people. We take care of filing all their forms with the IRS so that the new organization's set up properly. We make sure that we go through everything very carefully before we do that so that they're going to get through the process quickly, although it's not very quick. Last time was about 18 months to get our last affiliate approved, so it's definitely a time-consuming process, but we do that for them. We set up websites, we provide IT support, provide hosting, purchase necessary domain names. We make sure that we train people in our affiliates of how to use and navigate their websites. We set them up with their email addresses and just make ourselves available in general to assure that they have a strong and professional internet presence. We really want to make sure that they have a good professional presence. So sometimes we find it necessary to travel to our affiliates, to be there in person, to help show our support and kind of provide leadership and just direction and make sure that they really truly understand what it is that our vision and our mission is. And so actually this last spring, I was so lucky. I got to go down to Texas for about 3 months with my family. My husband and I moved all 5 of our children and our chocolate lab down to Texas. It was a great winter to be in Texas, by the way. We left here like February 2nd, and we drove straight through the night, like 20-some hours, and we got out, and it was like 75 degrees. I was like, oh, God bless Texas. So this next month, actually, I'm really excited because I get to travel down there because Texas, down in Brazos Valley, our affiliate there, is having their first big community fundraiser for their maternity home on October 2nd. So that event's going to be huge. I'm really excited I get to travel down there to go to that. And I'm not going to talk too much about what's happening in Texas because, like I said, Abby's here, and so if she wants to talk about that in a little bit, I'll let her do that. But the work that they're doing, I just have to let you know, like, it is absolutely breathtakingly just astounding how quickly this organization has just gotten off the ground. It's been such a pleasure to watch them work because they're truly professionals at this. You know, we're learning from watching how the Guiding Star Brazos Valley board is pulling this all together because a lot of them have past experience with the Coalition for Life. Our vice chair on our Brazos Valley organization is actually one of the original founders of the Coalition for Life, Lauren Gouldy. And so we've got Abby Johnson as our chair, and we've got the founder of the Coalition for Life as our vice chair. And so it's just wonderful to watch how people that understand, you know, the pro-life movement, the passion, how to motivate people, how quickly they can just really get things done. And so we're learning, and they're really inspiring us. So we're just very proud, both of Brazos Valley and then of Duluth, too. Duluth, Minnesota, our other affiliate, has been doing such fantastic work. So really proud of all of them. So there's our 2 affiliates right now. So we got beautiful Duluth, and you can kind of see that our affiliates, their logos follow closely off of ours. We're trying to create a brand, a recognition that as we go into these different cities all across the country, that they'll see Guiding Star, they'll know it's part of us, they'll understand the ideology. Similar to another big organization called Planned Parenthood, you see the Planned Parenthood logo in any city and you know exactly what it stands for. We want you to be able to see the Guiding Star logo anywhere and know exactly what we stand for and understand that it's a competitive option with Planned Parenthood. So we're positioned to grow really well right now with all of the interest and support. This could spread across the country very quickly if we can get the right resources and the right team in place. So we have a very particular need tonight, though, that I wanted to talk with you about. And it's actually some really big news that we are really excited to share with you. We actually have been working all summer on our newest affiliate. So tonight, you guys get to be the very first people to hear who our 3rd city that we are officially affiliating with to work on bringing a Guiding Star Center to. So huge announcement. Nobody knows yet. We actually just published their website and their Facebook page at about 6:15 tonight. So you can pull your phones out. Feel free in just a little bit to go over and like. So we've been holding a lot of meetings right here in the Twin Cities. And so, yeah. Yeah, that's right. So, you know, everything I talked about, you guys are absolutely the most ideal city for this to come to, and we're so excited. The team came together pretty quickly and pretty easily. We had a lot of interest. A lot of people had contacted us individually from the Twin Cities and had said, this is something we're interested in. We held our first kind of exploratory meeting last summer, actually a year ago in July, and we pulled together a lot of your pro-life leaders here. And it was just so refreshing and encouraging to see your pro-life leaders come together so nicely and have authentic friendships with one another. And that was so encouraging to us. We thought this is a community where people can see the value of one another's work, can acknowledge the value of one another's work, and want to work together. And so that was a huge just boost to our decision. We said, yeah, we've looked at a lot of cities right now. We've had other cities fill out applications, we've looked at them, but we haven't seen another city that we've wanted to come to more. So I want to introduce you really briefly your board of directors, your very first incorporating board of directors, because they're all here tonight, and they've all been just, wanting to say something, and we said, you can't say anything till afterwards. So I'm going to invite them to just come up if they want to just briefly wave. Your board chair, Danielle Ruiz Ponce. You want to come up? Okay. Your vice chair is Karen Schultz. All right. Your secretary is Hallie Rogers. Yes. Your treasurer is Nicole Tursich. And board member at large, Allie Gardner. So we're starting with these 5 beautiful women. Thank you. So they are going to be really busy this fall because we are going to start implementing everything. They had their first inaugural meeting, so they've kicked off a little bit, but afterwards tonight, we're going to clear one of the tables out there, and so they're going to be looking for a lot of help, a lot of volunteers, people to kind of help them, really get this project off and running this fall. We've already started looking a little bit at some real estate in the area. We've started to talk with some of the pro-life leaders just to see who's interested in being part of this center, and so these beautiful women are all going to need a lot of help. And I wanted to show you, see, we just published it, we're live, so their website and their Facebook page are up. And they've all been tremendously helpful in pulling together this event, so I'm really, really thankful to all of you. Thank you so much. Okay, thanks. So they are going to be a competitive force to be reckoned with in this community, so I don't know if Planned Parenthood knows what's about to hit them, because these women get it. So please pray for them. They're just kind of getting off the ground. Like I said, after the event tonight out in the hall where the registration table was by the t-shirts, the books, they're going to have contact sheets. Please talk with them, pull them aside, let them know if you're interested in helping. So we wanted to just kind of give you, your city here, Twin Cities. This is why we kind of chose you. So first of all, the threat here is very real. You've got a lot going on here. You've got the 3rd largest Planned Parenthood in the nation. That's a big deal. So we see that there's a lot of work that we can hopefully do to compete with them. We recognize that there is amazing work happening in this city right now, as evidenced by all of those nonprofit vendors that were out here beforehand. Every one of those groups is doing fantastic work, but you've got a really big Planned Parenthood to compete with here. And so when I say compete with them, I mean we're looking at competing with them. Like, that building is roughly 40,000, 50,000 square feet. Why can't we put together a building that's 50,000 square feet? Why not? Why not? We think the resources are here, and I think that if we work together that we absolutely can do this. We know that we can do this here because our decision to come here was based largely on some of these factors, that you have so many national organizations headquartered right here. And actually, I missed several of them. I mean, I just was like typing this up, and several of them are even here. So these are just a few. You've got great accesses to universities and colleges. So the next generation of pro-life leaders that we're trying to equip, we've got a plethora of them here. So if we can start affecting them and influencing them, at this point in their life, if they see a Guiding Star Center and a Planned Parenthood as equal options, that's going to affect how they view women's bodies, how they view the pro-life movement. So we want to really hit the college students. Organically friendly, our approach is actually not a religious approach. Many of us happen to be religious by nature, but we're taking a very secular approach to this. We are taking more of an organic, secular women's health approach. And so when we talk about that we oppose abortion and birth control, the reason for that is because this is interrupting natural, healthy functions of a woman's body. It's violating the natural process of how her body would work. It's not necessarily a moral argument from many people's standpoint. It's an organic kind of argument. And this city has a lot of people that are open to hearing that. They're willing to hear us talk about green sex. If we start talking about, oh, let's make your sex life green, let's go organic with it. What we're really going to tell you is how to do natural family planning, but you know, they'll hear it. And this is one of those beautiful communities that I think is open to that. And then also your public transit system here is improving and getting even better every day. And so our center, we want it to be just as accessible to the mom with 10 kids driving a giant van as the mom who doesn't have a car, who's, you know, on the brink of homelessness. Like, our center has to be just as accessible to all these women because we want to attract all these different people. This is a slide that we had showed some of the nonprofits earlier when we had spoken with them. The financial benefits of cooperating. You know, when I talk about having a big old building to compete with Planned Parenthood, and everyone thinks there's not enough money in the pro-life movement. That's simply not true. There is enough money in the pro-life movement. It's that we are duplicating a lot of our expenses right now in the movement. When every one of us has, you know, all these office equipment things and copy machines, and we're all paying heating costs, and we're all paying rent, and we're all paying for duplicative things, that if we could pool our resources and work together in some way, it opens up a lot more money. All of a sudden you find that you have a lot more money to go back towards services. And so we've had this run a couple times now by different business consultants, and our rough estimate has always come out. One of them came out actually much above it, but we feel comfortable saying that we could eliminate up to 20% of an annual budget of a nonprofit, one of our pro-life nonprofits, by working together in this way. And that would mean that the Guiding Star organization in that community would take it upon themselves to help to raise the money, seek underwriters, grants, funding to help cover the costs for the things like your rent, your heat, the things that you really don't maybe want to be focusing on as a nonprofit group. You might want to be focusing on serving women and, you know, increasing your outreach on a college campus. Like, you might have your mind focused someplace totally else, but then all of a sudden you have to spend 90% of your time raising money to pay the heating bill. You know, that takes you away from your mission, and we don't want to do that. We want all of our groups to be focused 100% on their mission and to be able to use 100% of the money that they have on their mission. We don't want to be duplicating these costs. So just really wanted to highlight that for you. And I promised you I would let her talk tonight, so I will. Nobody in our movement probably knows better how we need all the money that we can get than somebody who's worked for Planned Parenthood, because Planned Parenthood has all the money that they need to do whatever they want. And so it's my joy and my honor tonight to introduce our speaker for the evening, Abby Johnson. So Abby worked for Planned Parenthood for 8 years and understands better than any of us the monumental task that we're undertaking in creating centers capable of competing with Planned Parenthood. As the director of Planned Parenthood's clinic in Bryan, Texas, and their 2008 Employee of the Year, she excelled at spreading the Planned Parenthood talking points and meeting their goals. In 2009, Abby left Planned Parenthood after witnessing an ultrasound-guided abortion. Since then, she's dedicated her life to speaking out on behalf of the unborn and for the conversion of all those whose lives have been affected by abortion. Her new nonprofit ministry, And Then There Were None, focuses specifically on working with former abortion clinic workers and helping them to transition out of the abortion industry and find healing. So we are so honored to call Abby our teammate in this fight, to have her in our Guiding Star family, and I ask you to give her a really warm welcome as she takes the stage.
Well, I am from Texas, so howdy. No, you don't woo, you say it back. Howdy. Okay, that's good. Yankees. I am so glad to be here with all of you tonight. Man, how excited are you that there's a guiding star coming right here? I'm excited. When my Planned Parenthood, my former Planned Parenthood clinic closed last August, one of my first phone calls was to Leah, and I said, "This is it. It's time for a guiding star in Bryan College Station," because I think that we're starting to understand more in the pro-life movement that it's not just about stopping abortion. It's not just about working on pro-life legislation. It's not just about that, right? It's about supporting women. It's about supporting families. And it's about being there for the woman and supporting her so that she will choose life for her child, so that it will just make sense for her to choose life, that abortion won't be something that she says, well, I won't choose abortion because it's illegal, but she won't choose abortion because it will be unthinkable to her. And that's what Guiding Star is trying to do across the country, and it's now what it's going to be doing here in your neck of the woods. And so that's really exciting. I came here tonight with my 6-week-old son, and he's getting a diaper change. He's not here, so and I have a 1-year-old son at home and a 2-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And I know we know how it happens. So I tell people we became pro-life and we couldn't stop breeding. So I'm actually a natural family planning instructor. I hear it works if you use it. I wouldn't know, but my clients no longer trust me. They're looking for a new practitioner. Anyway, Leah said I worked for Planned Parenthood for 8 years. This wasn't always what I was doing. I left Planned Parenthood almost 5 years ago, October of 2009. And, 2009 for me had been a good year with Planned Parenthood. I had made the decision to stay on with Planned Parenthood. I had the option of going and getting my PhD or staying on with Planned Parenthood, and I stayed on with Planned Parenthood. Because I was promised that I would, in 5 years, be the COO of the affiliate that I was working with. That was exciting for me. I had also, in April of 2009, I had been awarded Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year award. I know, you're proud of me. And that was exciting. I'd gotten a big, monetary bonus, but that didn't matter because I made gobs of money at Planned Parenthood. And, but the exciting part was that I got to go to their annual dinner, and I went to their annual dinner every year, but I had to sit like way back in the nosebleed section. But this year, that April, I got to sit up at the head table, and that was exciting, but it was really exciting because I got to sit with the person that was receiving their Margaret Sanger Circle Award. That's their most, their highest honored award that they give out every year. We know who Margaret Sanger is, right? Founder of Planned Parenthood, first Planned Parenthood founded in 1916, New York City, called the Birth Control League, it morphed into Planned Parenthood. She said things like, the most merciful thing a large family can do to one of its infant members is to kill it. She said things like, Negroes are human weeds that need to be exterminated from the human garden. And today we see her dreams coming to fruition, as in some states, the abortion rate on African American pregnancies is as high as 72%. And so this is an epidemic in our culture, in our society, and it was, I believe, started back with Margaret Sanger and the eugenics movement. And so that year, I was really excited because this year, actually, you know who won the award? Nancy Pelosi. Shocker. That year, the award went to Hillary Clinton. I know you're fans. And hold your excitement. And I was really excited because Hillary, you know, she was like my role model at the time. I just thought she was fantastic and thought nobody was cooler than Hillary Clinton. And so, you know, I sat there at the table and we had a very intimate conversation with 10 Secret Servicemen surrounding us. And she got up to receive the award, and, you know, she stood up there, and I have no idea what she said. I'm sure it was riveting, but I remember looking at her and thinking, wow, you know, one day I want to do that. One day I want to be just like her, but with better hair. And I, you know, this is what I want to do. And then that was in April. In August, I had a budget meeting with my supervisor, and she was telling me that we were going to be doubling the abortion quota for my health center. And that did make sense to me because I knew we had an abortion quota, but, you know, we always met it, so it was really a non-issue. We never talked about it. But this year, they were doubling the abortion quota, and that did make sense because I had said in front of the media for years that our goal at Planned Parenthood was to reduce the number of abortions, that we wanted to prevent the need for abortion. And so it didn't make sense why we would double the abortion quota if that's really what we meant, if we were really being honest. And so I said this to my supervisor. She laughed at me and she said, but that's how we make our money. Now, you're looking at me and going, duh. But I was genuinely shocked. And I thought, well, you know, somebody didn't have their Starbucks today. And so I went home and I tried to justify that. I tried to make sense of it. And I don't know how I did it, but somehow I did. And people ask me, you know, how did you go from being this good kid, this good Christian kid that was raised in church? How did you go from being that to being someone that ran an abortion facility? And I don't have a silver bullet answer for you. The only thing I can say is that it happened just a little bit at a time. It happened bit by bit, because that's the way that sin works. You know, one day you're doing your thing and you're rationalizing and you're justifying that sin, and then, I don't know, one day you wake up and you just don't even know who you are anymore. That day came for me September 26, 2009. We had a visiting physician come in from out of town. This particular physician owned his own private practice in Austin, Texas, and he had come down to our facility in Bryan College Station to assist us, help us out with abortions that day. Now, I want to explain to you just briefly how a first trimester abortion is performed, because the majority of abortions that take place in the United States are performed in the first trimester. So just kind of a basic rundown of first trimester abortions. A woman comes in, she's given a stack of paperwork. She's escorted to the back where she sits in a counseling session, although there's really no counseling to it. It's just a session where a counselor is going to make sure that all of the lines are signed, all of the signatures are there to eliminate liability for the abortion facility. And after that, she's going to have some lab work done, and then she's going to be taken back to the exam room. And Planned Parenthood and the National Abortion Federation both require that before a first trimester abortion is performed, that a transvaginal ultrasound must be completed. And that's something that's their protocol, not ours. And they would make sure that they turned the screen away from the woman so that there wasn't a chance that she would look up and see what was on the ultrasound, because you see, the ultrasound exposes the lie of the abortion industry. And we would also try to make sure that she was sedated before we did the ultrasound, just for that extra comfort that she wouldn't pop her head up and see what was on that screen. The doctor would then come in after sedation had already been administered. He would have his mask on, his gloves on. He would not have any interaction with the patient. He would not introduce himself to her. There would be no dialogue. He would go to the end of the bed, sit down. He would begin the abortion procedure by dilating her cervix with dilation rods. And once the cervix was open large enough, he will insert something called a cannula. It's a plastic sort of tubing that's hooked up to the suction machine. He will then insert that cannula into her uterus, and he will begin blindly probing around in her uterus until he thinks he has enough blood and tissue in a glass jar. That glass jar goes through one of those turnstiles, one of those pass-throughs in the wall that turns around. And on the other side of that wall is a lab called the POC lab. Now, what does POC stand for? Products of conception. What's that? That's the baby, right? You can't say baby in an abortion clinic. So we said POC or POC, or if the staff was feeling funny, we said it stood for pieces of children. And the POC technician, their job was to dump everything out of that glass jar into a glass baking dish where she would reassemble the parts of that baby. Now, why did we do that? Because if we didn't, and we accidentally left a head or a hand or part of the leg inside the woman's womb, then she could develop a very serious infection that could be fatal to her. After the parts are reassembled, she signs off that everything is there and complete, and she dumps all of the contents from that baking dish into a red biohazard Ziploc type of bag, and that bag goes into a freezer in the POC lab that we used to call the nursery. And then after the abortion day was complete, the next business day, a biohazard medical waste company, usually Stericycle, would come into the facility, and they would pick up all of the red bags. They would take them back to their place, and they would incinerate them. And that's how abortions are done day in, day out, almost 3,500 times a day in this country. That's it. It's the same way abortions have been done since 1973. It's the same way abortions have been done since the 60s. Abortion procedures, first trimester abortion procedures, don't change. Our goal was to have a woman on the table and off the table in 5 minutes. We could do, really with one physician, an abortion facility could do 75 abortions a day, if you get them on and off in 5 minutes. So that was the goal. And that's how I knew abortion was performed. I had been in the room before for support of the woman if I had been her counselor. I had held hands. I had taken blood pressure readings. I had dabbed their tears with Kleenex because the procedure is very painful. But I had never actually assisted in an abortion procedure before. But this day, on September 26th, the physician that was there, he was going to show me something. He wanted to educate me on the different types of abortion procedures that were out there. And he explained that in his own private practice, he always used an ultrasound during the abortion because guess what? It's safer if a doctor can see what he's doing when he's performing surgery on you. So can you imagine, like, I don't know, what do you get done? Like a root canal, okay? And you're laying there waiting on your dentist to come in, and he rolls it on his stool. He puts a blindfold on and says, you know what? I've been doing this a long time, and today I'm going to jazz it up. And I'm going to do your root canal blindfolded. What do you say? Anybody okay with that? No? What about a blind colonoscopy? Anybody? No? Weird. Because that's exactly how abortions are done every day in this country. That's the standard procedure, and nobody blinks an eye. Nobody thinks anything about it. And so when he's explaining this to me that it's safer for the woman, I'm thinking, great. Well, that's fantastic because at Planned Parenthood, we're about keeping women safe. That's all we're about. And so I wanted to learn more about this. My time came. I was called into the room. My job during the abortion procedure was to hold the ultrasound probe on the woman's abdomen so that the physician would be able to, in his words, visualize his target. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I am not certified in ultrasonography. I don't have any medical certification or background. I'm a therapist by education, so if you're having a bad day, we can talk about it afterward. But if you need an ultrasound, I'm not your gal. I shouldn't be doing that. But inside the abortion industries, it doesn't matter. You just have to be a warm body and be willing and go through an hour-long in-house training, and they set you loose to perform medical procedures on vulnerable women. And I had been through the training, I was willing, I was ready, and so there I was, holding this ultrasound probe. And I do the measurement, and we find that the woman is 13 weeks pregnant. Now, 13 weeks, are there arms and legs, heartbeat, internal organs, brain waves? Did I already say that? Fingers and toes? Everything's there. Everything that we have, a child in the womb has at 13 weeks. So I'm looking at the screen, and admittedly, I'm feeling a little anxious. It looked like a baby. I knew it wasn't because Planned Parenthood told me so. Now, I have a 7-year-old daughter. I've been out of the industry almost 5 years. So I had her when I was working at Planned Parenthood. And when I was pregnant with Grace, it was a baby. But I guess that was just because she was wanted. If the baby's unwanted, then it's just tissue. And so I'm looking up at this screen, and I'm feeling a little nervous. I'm trying to reassure myself. I knew no matter what I saw on that screen, I knew this was true, that this unborn child, this fetus, this POC, tissue, whatever we wanted to call it, it would not feel any pain. Now, how did I know that? Because Planned Parenthood sent me a memo about it. And the memo was entitled Answers to Tough Questions. The most commonly asked question I got from women having an abortion in my office was, will my baby feel this? They wanted to know. And that's, it's something that we do in our society. And we've even done it in the pro-life movement. We've somehow equated humanity to the ability to feel pain, instead of recognizing the truth that humanity begins at the moment of conception. But these women, it was important to them to know, and so Planned Parenthood knew that they had to have a very clever answer, because we couldn't look at a woman and go, well, we don't know, or, well, yeah, it's possible. Now let's get you ready in exam room number 1. That wouldn't work, right? That would be inhumane. And so our answer, the scripted answer that was on that memo that we were to give back to women, that I gave back thousands of times, was no, the fetus has no sensory development or does not feel anything until 28 weeks. Now, do you believe that? No? Do you? Well, I did. I mean, I knew better. I knew it was a lie. And these women, I would give them the scripted answer. They knew it was a lie, too. 60% of women that have abortions already have children at home. So we knew it was a lie, but we had to believe the lie. We had to go along with it. We had to justify it and make it true in our own minds, because if we didn't, then the truth would be too inconvenient. And so we just believed it. And so I was standing there and I was reciting this scripted answer over and over again in my head, trying to make myself feel better, trying to reassure myself. And I watch as the abortion instrument, that cannula, goes into the woman's womb. The suction was not yet turned on. And I watch as that probe went right up next to the side of that 13-week-old little boy. And as it touched his side, he jumped. And he began flailing his arms and legs as if he was trying to move away from that abortion instrument, but there was nowhere for him to go. The doctor asked the technician to turn on the suction, and he said, "Beam me up, Scotty." And the suction was turned on. I think people make the assumption that what I saw next was the worst part, that seeing an unborn child become dismembered in his mother's womb would be the worst part. But I knew that was going to happen. I had seen it. I worked as a POC technician. I had seen the aftermath of abortion. I had seen the graphic nature of abortion. That wasn't shocking to me. The worst part was that I just stood there and I did nothing. I mean, I remember wanting to intervene. I remember wanting to sit this woman up and to say, look at what is happening to your child. Make them stop. They're hurting him. But I didn't. I just stood there and I watched. And I'm a mom. What kind of mom just stands there while another woman's child is murdered right in front of her face and does nothing? Me. You see, friends, I don't believe that abortion has been legal for over 40 years because of Planned Parenthood or because of pro-choice lobbyists or because of other abortion providers. I believe that abortion has been legal for so long because of one reason, and that is apathy. Because we know what's happening. I don't think anybody's sitting in here looking at me going, wow, I had no idea abortion killed a baby. We know it. But many times, when given the opportunity, many of us, we just stand there. and we don't intervene, we don't speak out, we do nothing. It's our apathy. And you know where apathy is the worst? Inside of our churches. I grew up in church. Every time those doors were open, we were there. I grew up pro-life, but not really knowing what that meant. We weren't activists or anything. I didn't know much about abortion. I remember sitting in church and hearing very riveting sermons on the sin of homosexuality. I remember hearing even more exciting sermons on the necessity of tithing. You know how many times I heard my pastor stand up at the pulpit and talk about the sin of abortion and the need for reconciliation and healing? Never. Shame on us. Shame on the faithful. Because when we don't talk about it, women suffer. When we don't talk about it, men suffer, families suffer. They sit in silence and they suffer. And they're made to believe that abortion is the unforgivable sin. And we know that's not true. Almost 70% of women who have abortions come from our churches. Is that surprising to you? Because I gotta tell you, it's not surprising to me. I've had 2 abortions in my life. The Sundays before my abortions, I sat in church. The Sundays after my abortions, I sat in church. The 8 years that I worked at an abortion facility, I sat in church. See, I believe wholeheartedly that if we really wanted to end this, I think we could. I think if people of faith came together, people of reason came together, looked this evil in the face and said, no more. Not one more. We could end abortion like that. But we don't, do we? Because it's much more exciting to bicker about theology or why do you worship Mary? Or I'm Catholic, so I can say that. Why don't Catholics read the Bible? I'm a convert. I'm still waiting on one of you guys to save me. It's much more exciting to talk about our differences than it is for us to come together. And that's what Guiding Star is trying to do. When I worked at Planned Parenthood, we had a referral system, so women would come to our health center, and if they had high blood pressure or if they had diabetes and they needed assistance with that, or if they had an abnormal pap smear and they needed some sort of assistance, we would have to refer them out because, contrary to popular belief, Planned Parenthood can't help them if they need help with those types of things. And so we would refer them out. You know how many people actually went and followed through with their referral? 25%. So, I mean, it's no big deal if you don't get your diabetes in check, right? You'll just lose your legs. It's no big deal if you have high blood pressure. You'll just die at 40 of a heart attack. It's no big deal, right? It is a big deal. But we're talking about women who have limited income, they have limited transportation, they have limited childcare, and so they can only go to one appointment, right? They can only make it to that one appointment. It's very difficult to make it to follow-up appointments. And so they would come to us and we would give them a referral and say, sorry, you got to go somewhere else. And then they're not going to go. And so there they are, no better leaving than they were when they walked into that Planned Parenthood facility. 25%. How amazing would it be if a woman walked into a center for her health care screening, and let's say she had a positive pregnancy test, and let's say she's not sure what she wants to do and she really wants to talk to somebody about her options. Well, that would be great if you could just send her right down the hallway to talk to somebody about those options. And what if after that conversation she really wants to explore adoption? How awesome would it be to walk her right down that same hall and send her to an adoption agency that's in the same building? Right? That's the vision. I mean, could you wrap your head around that vision? It's coming together. It's serving the needs of the woman in a holistic way. That's it. I recently wrote an article for the National Catholic Register, and it was about this. Pregnancy centers are great, but they will soon start fizzling out if we can't rise up to the challenge and seriously compete with Planned Parenthood. You can't say that a pregnancy center is competitive with a Planned Parenthood clinic if they are only providing pregnancy tests and ultrasounds. I mean, I love pregnancy centers, but I'm telling you, that's not being competitive with Planned Parenthood. Because you're not even providing the same services. That's like saying CVS is competitive with a muffler shop. No, they're not. Because they don't provide the same service. That's ridiculous. Right? That doesn't even make sense. But that's what we're saying in the pro-life movement. We're a pregnancy center. We're competing with Planned Parenthood. No, you're not. You're not providing the same services. And so while I love the pregnancy center movement, while I believe it's necessary, while I believe it's a necessary component, we've got to rise to the challenge. We have to. Or else when it comes to being competitive, we will lose. And that's what Guiding Star is trying to do. To be seriously competitive and to say, you know what, Pregnancy Center, we love you, we support you, we want to bring you in, and we want to help bring in a medical component so you can help women in a more holistic way. Awesome. Because you know what? That's really what it means to be pro-life. Not just to be pro-baby. Because I'm not just pro-baby, y'all. I like babies. I have a lot of them, but I'm not just pro-baby. I'm pro-woman. I'm pro-child. I'm pro-family. I'm pro-health. I'm whole life, right? And that's what basically we're here to do, is to challenge you to catch that vision and to get on board and to support it wholeheartedly and to figure out the best way that you can support it and the most sacrificial way that you can support this vision. I have this friend, we've got 4 abortion clinics in Austin. Well, no, we have 3 now. And you know, I go out and sidewalk counsel and pray outside of the clinic. So one day, this friend of mine, I was outside of a clinic, and she drove by and saw me standing out there. And so she Facebooked me, and because we don't talk on the phone ever anymore. And she Facebooked me and said, hey, I saw you standing outside this building. What are you doing? And I said, oh, well, that's actually an abortion facility. And, I go out there and pray whenever I'm home. And she was like, oh, that's cool. I'd really like to go out there with you one day. And I said, great. So I'm like, I'm never going to forget that. I'm going to bug you every time I go out there. So I'd text her, 'cause again, not talking on the phone. I'd text her, I'd message her or something and say, hey, I'm about to go out to the clinic. You want to go with me? Now, this friend of mine, she has a standing hair appointment. Stay with me. This goes somewhere. She has a standing hair appointment with her hairstylist once every 4 weeks. Okay? And every time she goes in, she laughs and says that she's there for at least 4 hours. Now, I don't know what's wrong with her friend. I don't know what's wrong with her hair. I think it needs prayer. But once every 4 weeks for 4 hours. But, every time I text her and say, hey, you want to go? You know what? She never has any time. She's just too dang busy. And that's our life, right? We're just too busy. Babies are dying. I know, but I'm real busy getting my hair done. Doesn't that sound ridiculous? How ridiculous you think it's going to sound when we get to heaven? I know, God, I should have been doing that, but my toes were funky. I needed a pedicure. I mean, really? I can't think of anything that must hurt the heart of God more than abortion. Because, God, he seeks perfection in all things, and so he creates this child in his image and with such great detail, in this perfect love. And he gets to know that baby that he creates. I mean, he knows us so intimately. He knows every hair on our head. And here he gives this gift to a woman. And then we think we know better and we throw that gift away. I can't think of anything sadder than that. I guess I'm asking you tonight to figure out where your standing appointments are and how you can give back to the pro-life movement. Because, we're called to be the hands and feet of Christ, but in order to do that, we kind of have to use our hands and feet. We've got to get active. We've got to get moving. Here you have this awesome affiliate, this awesome center that's going to be coming here. How can you help? I don't know, maybe you have some kind of weird talent and you're like, I don't think they could ever use that. You never know. They might. You may have some kind of really cool gift that you haven't even thought about contributing. You may have something. There is some way that you are being called to contribute to the pro-life movement. I just know it. I know every single one of you is being called in some way. But sometimes we just have to listen to figure out how we're supposed to be used. And so I'm encouraging you tonight to listen, to think about it, to be sacrificial, to give in a way that maybe you've never given before or never thought you could give, of your time, of your talent, of your treasure. Guys, how much is a baby's life worth? What are you willing to give? When I left Planned Parenthood, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I certainly didn't know I'd be doing this and Then I started this abortion clinic worker ministry, and we provide support for them in a lot of different ways. One of the ways that we do is we provide healing retreats for these workers. In fact, we have a healing retreat coming up this weekend, so I'd ask that you be in prayer about that. But, I guess that I probably helped to facilitate about 20,000 abortions when I was at Planned Parenthood. We had a worker on our last retreat that had worked 17 years in a late-term abortion facility, and she estimated that she helped to facilitate more than 500,000 abortions. And there's nothing we can do to make up for that. It's good. God doesn't require that from us. But we do ask them on their retreats to try to rehumanize one of those children, to make one of those children real to them and to memorialize them in some way. And they can do that in a lot of different ways, but usually the first step that most people take is to write a letter to the child that they want to rehumanize. And when I left Planned Parenthood almost 5 years ago, I did this on my own, and I found the letter a few months ago, and I had to update a few things, but I thought that I would read that to you tonight. Dearest little one, I can close my eyes and imagine you in the loving arms of Christ. I can see Jesus smiling at you as you touch his face. And as this image warms my heart, I am stricken with sorrow. I am so sorry that I did not defend you. I am sorry that instead of protecting you, I stood there and watched you die. I think about you all the time, and I want you to know that I pray for your mom every day. I also let her down. I failed to show her that you were a gift, not a problem, and I took away the most precious blessing given to a woman, her motherhood. If I could only go back and change the past, I would protect you. I would have told your mom that her due date was April 16th. I would have valued your life. You would now be 4. I imagine you with dark skin and curly black hair. Sometimes I try to think about what it would feel like to hold you in my arms, but I know that I will have to wait until I'm reunited with you in heaven. I have named you Paul. While I know Christ has forgiven me, I still grieve for you. But I want you to know that you did not die in vain. Your life changed mine. I promise to fight for you every day. I promise to help others see how precious your life was and to encourage them to fight. You will always be in my heart. You are a beautiful angel who has touched so many lives. I will see you soon. You see, guys, I had an opportunity to save this one, and I just let it pass me by. You have an opportunity by supporting this venture, this project, to save 1, to save 100, to save 1,000, to save so many. And I don't know if you've ever held a baby that's been saved from abortion, but God has granted me that gift several times, and man, it is perfection. This is it. This is our time to sacrifice. This is our time to be his hands and feet. This is our opportunity. And I don't want you to be discouraged. People come to me and they say, Abby, we're never going to win. They've got Bill Gates and Bill Clinton and stacks of bills. But you know what? It doesn't matter who they have on their side or how much money they have, because we have the number one guy on our side, and that's Jesus Christ, and we will win this war. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Abby. Wow, I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, but I have to say something because, like she said, we can win this fight, but we need all of you in this room to do it in whatever way that you're capable of doing. So please, we've assigned table hosts at every table. You should have a large white envelope like this. They will pass around a small envelope like this to each of you. Give you a minute to do that. In each of the envelopes, you'll see 2 cards. First one is this beige card here. You can choose to give a one-time gift today. Check the box, put all your information in there so we can process it. If you just want to support us one time with whatever gift you are able, we would greatly appreciate it. On the blue card, that is if maybe you want to give a little larger gift or a small gift over the course of the year. You can do that too. So just let us know what your quarterly pledge is, fill out your information, and we'll just send you a reminder every few months to do that. So whichever way you prefer, we love it either way. You will help us to save families' lives. You can support us in any way you can. If you have questions, feel free to let us know, but take a few minutes to fill this out and then hand your completed forms back to your table host. If you, for some reason, want to take it home with you, do that. Just a self-addressed envelope, stick it in the mail, and we can process it later as well. So thank you very much for your support and coming this evening. One other housekeeping note while you're doing that. There was supposed to be some forms to fill out for, there's 6 really great prizes that some of our exhibitors had donated to us, but not everybody got those. So we're going to have a couple people just pass out some to your table, and then on the windowsill out there before you leave, if you want to register to win a couple prizes, we will pick at 9:30. If you're not here and we pick your name, we'll just mail it out to you. So thank you again very much.
I want to give you plenty of time to put lots of zeros. This has been a privilege and an honor for the University of St. Thomas Pro-Life Center to host this. We're extremely grateful to our friends at Guiding Star for the work they're doing and the ability to persuade Abby Johnson to come. So if we could just do one more round of applause for And then one of the privileges of being at a Catholic university instead of a secular university is that we can open and close in prayer. So if you would just bow your heads briefly, please. Heavenly Father, we come before you knowing full well that our nation is convicted of a grave, grave sin, and that we ourselves have not been as faithful in our love of our own families and the protection of those that you have committed to our care. Lord, we would ask that you soften our hearts and soften the hearts of all of those in this country toward the unborn and toward the mothers and the fathers who have lost their children through the scourge of abortion. Prosper the project